Day, Sun Energy. Those that do not know me, my name is Chief Apostle Samuel Jr. I am the apostle and pastor of Apostle of the Faith of Jesus Christ Incorporated, and my beliefs are deeply rooted in the ATRs. The ATRs are the African traditional religions by which we harness, direct, and disperse energy, frequency, and vibration. To each and every one of you guys, first of all, I want to say salutation to my madrina, to my padrino, to my oba, and to all of my brothers and sisters all over this globe that are practicing the ATRs. I want to say also hello to my Pisces, my Aries, my Taurus, my Aquarius, my Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Sagittarius, Scorpio, also Libra and Virgo. Hello to each and every one of you guys as you chime in today. If you don't mind hitting that like button, I want to say this. I've been doing, what's up, my Boaz, my Pisces in the house. I've been doing magic since I was a child. I am 53 years of age. Those that don't know, I'm a Sagittarius. My moon is Aries. My rising sign is Pisces. What's up, my Demetrius, Gemini in the house? I'm going to share some things today. And I utilize everyday magic, everyday energy, everyday frequency. What matters most is your desire of your goals. I often tell people, sit down and figure out what you want, who you are, what's feasible, what's rational, what's sober minded. When it comes to things in life and how you actually approach certain situations and certain goals in your life. And I want to talk about something today that will change your perspective, how you utilize your energy, your frequency, your vibration. To all of you that want to know what magic is and what it is not, to those that understand that applying a ritual doesn't mean you understand not only the ritual but also how it works. One of the things that I try to do as somebody that been doing magic quite some time. What's up, my Ryan, my Libra in the house, and my Virgo, Savannah, is giving people certain insight so that they will better address their own energy and also the energy of other people. Now, those that have not followed me, have just tuned in, it's important, certain ma'am, that you understand the people that are connected to you, that are a part of your sphere, a part of your circulation. I want to talk about Blockbuster today. What's up? My Virgo in the house. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. Now, let me say this. It doesn't matter if you're an E5, Voodoo, Santeria, Lakumi, Congo, Palo, Mystic, or Agate. Whether you're intermediate, whether you are advanced, whether you're a beginner, or whether you're a person that's on the sideline. Things, when it comes down to universal law, this is why I personally don't teach my personal practice or my personal beliefs, because that has a lot to do with my personal journey. And when it comes down to the collective, people can apply the same principles, but be after certain things differently. Their path may be different. They may be endeavoring their journey at a different pace. We call it pace of speed. Some people doing 40 miles an hour. Some people doing 60 miles an hour. Some people doing 120 miles an hour in their journey. And that to each their own. But these are the things that help us regulate. Now, I operate in seasons. And this is really moon magic. Solar magic or sun energy, which is ruled by Leo, and is also Leo rules the heart. This is why what you have in your heart matters so much. It gives life to what you believe in your heart, what you desire in your heart. Those that do not follow science because I'm really a nerd at heart. But the heart carries more energy, more frequency than the brain. And the function of the heart, a lot of times people don't understand that that particular element is about magnetism. And every planet, if you do planetary magic, every planet has a certain level of magnetism, even down to the planet Earth. And when you understand the energy of the particular influence that you have. See, I'm a Sagittarius, so my influence is Jupiter. If you're Gemini, your influence is Mercury. If you are Libra, Venus is your influence. So when you understand the magnetism of the energy of the solar power or the personal power that you bring to your life and to the life of others, now the sun energy is a life giver. And what that means, bringer of light. Now, that means enlightenment. So, solar energy or sun energy gives certain vitamins. Vitamin D is one of them. That we get certain nutrients from the sun. We get energized. We get recharged. We get enlightened. The sun energy allows us to purify, to cleanse, to advance, or causing growth. And a lot of times when we're working with different energy, when we're doing certain spells with the moon, or we're doing spells with a certain planet, or we're doing certain spells or prayers with certain ancestors, it depends on what that entity or that ancestor or that certain spirit is drawing its energy from. What is its source? And that determines on how it's going to manifest. And all these things are important when you claim that you want to understand yourself, you want to understand the environment. What's up there, my Demetrius? Thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. I'm glad to be reminded. Now, one of the things that I endeavor to do in my walk, my journey, when I use social media, is to give clarity why certain people are significant at certain times in your life. And the reason why I use transparency is that people know why they relate to me. When we use the word resonate, all this is conjured. This is why it's important to understand the mindset of a particular elder, a particular leader. I'm gonna give you an example. I was thinking about my hair. And my sister, my younger sister, asked me, she's like, why are you letting your hair grow? Because for years. So I explained to her, I said, I've always liked long hair, but when I started working for UPS all those years, I had to cut my hair. At that particular time, you had to be groomed a certain type of way. You had to be presenting a certain type of way. So certain things were not acceptable. I at that time I had a gold teeth in my mouth. I started working UPS like 21 years of age. So I had a lot of stuff that I had learned from my uncles and that street life and stuff, and to ascertain or obtain certain leverages in that company, I did away with some of the things. And one of the things I got rid of it not one of the things, but my hair and the gold tooth that I had my dentist to cut out. When it comes down to manifestation, and if you understand magic and what you're trying to manifest, when they tell you you have to be the frequency that you're looking for, whether it's abundance or healing, one of the things that I'm dealing with and coming out is with my healing, my restoration. And let me say this. This is why this is important. Because depending on what you're looking for is depending on what type of prayers or workings or rituals you need to be doing. In my healing, one of my requests was that I did not lose the quality of my life. I'm going to say this again. One of the things that I wanted a part of my day-to-day affirmation was I had no intention of losing the quality of my life. And through this sickness, whatever it was, where it was coming from. And I'm constantly trying to share different scenarios of where I was in my life. Now, the reason why I bring up that I'm 53, because depending on where you are in life, there are certain rituals that you may do, and depending on where you are, there are certain prayers you don't pray because you pass certain things in life. There are certain things that you may desire as a young man or a young woman that you done been there, done that, got the t-shirt, the hat, the caps, and the bandana. Okay? So you beyond that. So that's not how you're going to utilize your energy and frequency and vibration. I speak to a lot of people, and I deal with people that are on different phases of their life, different journeys. And this is why I make it a point to say to you, if this is what you want, if this is what you're looking for, no, let me say something. You got to know the difference between a relationship, whether it's business or platonic or whether it's romantic. You got to know the difference. You got to know that the difference between you interacting with people to get through something. So you may go out with somebody because you're bored or you don't want to be alone that particular week, that particular day, or that particular segment of your life. But that's not a need that you want long term. This is what allows me to adjust my skill set depending on what I really desire. You need to know what you want that is temporal in your life, and you need to know what you want as something permanent or consistent or last a considerable amount of time frame. So my message today, I was thinking about how to address this because I've been burning. I come out of burning my healing, my health is wealth incense, and I'm working on. I've been doing it for the last 3 days. My Blockbuster, and I wanted to share this, and this is really important. And my message is Blockbuster keeps the flow. Blockbuster keeps the flow. Short-term goals of the person versus long-term. I know that's right, Ryan. So I'm going to be coming from Job, the 19th chapter, 8 through 9. Blockbuster, whether you do a Blockbuster candle, and remember, candles are fire magic. It's all about energy, building up energy. And then you burn your incense that deals with atmosphere, the environment, your surroundings. It's dealing with the astral plane. So this is particular scripture talks about in Job, the 19th chapter, 8 through 9. It says, he hath fenced up my way that I cannot pass. We're talking about reason why we need Blockbuster. And he hath set darkness in my path. So a fence is a guardrail, right? It keeps things in a confined area. So look at your veins as a fence, because we're gonna be dealing with circulation. I want us to understand why we implement Blockbuster. Why have an understanding of why you burn a candle, a Blockbuster candle, or you burn your incense, or you use baths to remove blockages. Okay. Then it says, He hath stripped me of my glory, which is your honor, and taken the crown from my head. Now, the reason I want to talk about blockages, because depending on what area of life that is being affected, and that's why I didn't cover my head, because your crown, this sometimes we use Blockbuster or mix it with mental clarity to remove blockages mentally. One of the things that I want to talk about today that people don't think about, I don't care if you do hoodoo, voodoo, obeah, conjure, Christianity, Islam, Kamdemle, Kimbanda, it really don't matter, Ifa or voodoo. We go through things in life, and those situations and those circumstances create blockages. And a blockage does not have to mean it completely stops the flow. So I was thinking in terms, if you think about your vein and your circulation in your body and the flow that your body should have. When you have certain blockages or things that you are experiencing in life that hinder the flow of certain emotions in your life, because a heartbreak can hinder the flow. Even let me say this too. If you can stop getting out, get out of the habit of what's right and wrong, whether you did it or somebody did it to you. Anytime that you have an encounter, whether that encounter is negative or positive, there's an exchange of energy. And what people don't understand is your day-to-day life creates certain blockages. Now, blockages does not mean that the flow is stopped. That's a different type of work. I want to talk about things that create blockages. Experiences, negative mindsets create blockages from you obtaining, what's up, Mama Susan? Obtaining certain things in your life. And a lot of times people don't realize that they themselves are their own blockage. And it's not all blockages are harsh. Some blockages are subtle. Some blockages are gentle. What's up, Cancer in the house? Good morning to you as well. Or good afternoon now. I want to talk about this. If you are interacting with people, places, and things, you're going to come into contact with some form of resistance to your flow. And this is why I teach people about knowing their energy, their frequency, and their vibration. You can have a money flow, but you can also still have blockages that keep that flow from coming in like as you requested or you petition. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about he will open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you have not room enough to receive. But if there are certain blockages, you're only going to get so much of the harvest. One thing that we have to understand, that I always start with myself. I always start with the kingdom on the inside, my energy, my frequency, my vibration. Let me figure out what I'm doing that could be contributing to some of the delays or some of the slow ups. And what we're talking about, how to use Blockbuster, why it's significant, how to remove, because you can have personal power as a Sag, as a Gemini, as a Cancer, as a Leo, as a Virgo, Pisces, Aries, a Taurus, or Aquarius, a Capricorn. But it can be restricted because of certain blockages. The reason why you got to have sufficient blood flow is for that blood to circulate throughout your body, giving all organisms of that same system the nutrients and the oxygen that it needs to function. And when you start going through things, and this is what happens a lot of times, when you're young, your system is still strong. Very few people experience a weak system when they're young. Now, don't mean it don't happen, but pretty much everybody get a brand new system. Just like buying a brand new car. It runs well. Um, this is the flow. And when you start going through things and you start experiencing certain things, and I use the word jaded, you get jaded because you've been hurt or disappointed or betrayed. Or these things block your flow. These things restrict how much joy you experience. These things restrict how much a peace you experience. You know, I tell people all the time, I say, and I tell, especially my kid, the reason I'm big on truth, I cannot effectively use my energy, my magic, my prayers, my intercession without the truth. I don't want to make somebody the problem when it's me. I'm going to say it again. If you have went through certain things, you might be saying, like I say all the time, I'm not looking to get married. I've been married twice. I done had my experiences. I'm good. There are certain blockages I've already put up that keeps me from having certain experiences. Doesn't mean I don't date, doesn't mean I don't interact with people, but that level of commitment, because of my experience, I created a blockage. This is when we start praying prayers like, God give me favor, God move this and move that. When you decide to be solo dolo, this is why I'm very big on decisions. You can't complain about something when you put a block up. You done fence yourself in. Understand, if you're going to be a gay man or gay woman or bisexual, these are all fences. If you're a straight man, there's fences. If you're a straight woman, there are fences. You're a person that went to college, there's a certain fence. And then you chose not to go to college, there's a certain fence that you put yourself in. Every choice that you make, every way that you utilize your energy, your emotion, who you allow to interact with your emotions, is going to create a type of flow or prohibit a type of flow. That's why this is important. I wrote down here the build up from situations. So usually utilize it like this. The way you eat can build up cortisol or cholesterol. Certain amount of calcium builds up certain amount of plaque in your body. And most of us experience a lot of our weakness over time. The jobs that we have, the relationships we have, the family tree that we come from, it can build up a certain amount of blockages. Because this is what I be trying to tell people, because I have people come to me about relationships and stuff like that, and I'm a real stickler about relationships. And I treat a relationship like a business. And I really don't believe a lot of people want relationship. They want somebody to accommodate them in certain seasons of their life. And because if you understood that for me to get in a relationship, that I have to be accountable for how I show up in that relationship, just like you have to be accountable how you show up in your business. If you're not bringing enough finances in your business, don't look at your client. Okay, what am I doing? And what type of clients do I have? What am I attracting? Or what am I soliciting? Those terms. Because this has to do with your flow. This has to do with the fences that you put yourself in. These are the fences that you allow other people to build around your life. I was telling one of my tribal members, my Boaz, I don't feel like he mine. And I kept telling him, you have to stop being tolerated. I do not let people define me. I don't let people responsible for the choices that I made to walk my journey. I understand that every Black American person does not embrace the Black arts. The reason I was telling my Boaz not to be tolerated, because toleration is a blockage. You have the right as a human being on planet Earth to receive the flow of love, joy, the peace, serenity, all that goodness. But when you are in environments because of people's ideas, their perceptions, it blocks your flow. People don't realize, even in ATRs, there are certain blockages that I deal with constantly because I'm a dark-skinned man, because I practice the Black arts. When most Black people hear that, they're not coming from a positive space. I have to understand. So I'm constantly removing blockages, mental blockages, emotional blockages. When I tell y'all I want you to prosper and be in health even as your soul prosper, that has a lot to do with your Blockbuster. Why you're removing blockages. What type of blockages? Things that you accept in your spiritual system or your energetic system. People's ideas, people's opinions. That stuff will block you. That stuff will hinder the flow of what you could be experiencing. Instead of you getting 100-fold, you got 60-fold. And let me tell y'all something. And this is a blockage that Black people. There's nothing wrong with being thankful for what you have. But it is a problem when you are harvesting beneath what you have sown. If the cankerworm has come in, the palmer worm has come in, the locust has come in and eaten up some of your crop, you did not get a full harvest. There were certain things that block you from getting a full harvest for your labor. Black people need to understand this. If I'm going to say that I am the microcosm of the universe, I must identify not only the blockages that I create or have created, but those that society creates, that gender creates. There's certain things that men believe that women can't do. I don't believe that. I believe that certain things in life that you do will make it harder on you. I was telling Sister Calvina, and she's doing weightlifting. At a certain age, women's calcium drops. And the things that the physical working does for a man's body that enhances him, it hinders a woman in her structure. And let me tell y'all something. If you gonna get into the ATRs, if you want to deal with magic, you gotta always understand your system of how it flows. knowing when it's time to recover. The greatest thing that I've learned in my 50s is what rest is. Um, I am innately a person that is not a homebody. I like to go. I like to go. And the discipline, the structure of my flow in my healing was rest. There's a reason why certain organs need certain vitamins, nutrients to keep the flow, to hinder blockages, to get rid. There are certain herbs that we take or we utilize in our blockbuster work that removes certain issues emotionally. A lot of people don't understand that every herb, every green tree is medicine. And depending, that's why I read all that, whether it's your crown that is being blocked, because remember, your head is your satellite. It allows information to come in and it allows information to go out. It transmits energy. That's what the crown is all about. This is how your message, your dreams come in. It all comes in through the crown. And if there is blockages there mentally, there blockages there through people working on your ori or your crown or and when I say working on it, this is why when you understand magic, you understand advertisement. You understand why colors matter. You understand why repetition matters. Why they don't just show one commercial one time. Absolutely, I have been learning to rest for a few days. Long air travel. Where you let me tell you something. When you fly, and that's your mode of transportation. Think about this. If you are in the air or you on the water, there's very little of grounding. This is why we wear crystals, because if we're in a certain element or we're doing certain things, whether it's because of our job or it's because of our business, you got to know what ungrounds you, what flying all the time. You're always in the air. The air element. The air element is volatile. And you have to do things to ground you. Utilizing like patchouli or a black stone. I like black kyanite to ground. I'm a fire. I'm like, but I need that type of fencing, that type of structure to allow me to maneuver. Let me tell you another thing that my rest has caused. I'm able to assess things that I want in my life in a more strategic way because I've been given the time to think rather than just doing things spontaneously. I'm a fire sign. Being spontaneous is a natural thing. Just jumping up doing stuff. But me being in my 50s, being able to sit down and strategize before I actually move forward in something, being able to talk about it, to go over it, reanalyze it. These are all the things that you gonna come into at different spaces of your life. This is why, and I didn't understand this at the time. My spiritual dad told me this. He told me, he said, you stop trying to be old before your time. Because I was raised up around a lot of older people. And But that's one of the things he told me, and thinking in of the term, acting not your age, whether younger or older, can hinder your flow. To keep you from experiencing certain things, it'll block you. When I'm talking to young people, I'm talking to people, first time homeowners, first time having your car, the first time, and the thing about I try to tell people is like, I remember my oldest son got his first credit card. And he was like, cause when you're young, you're gonna use it. So I told him, I said, listen, he said, Dad, I can pay for me. I said, I said, I'm gonna still pay. I said, you're going to get plenty of time to utilize that credit card. And you need to find out, and I was explaining to him about credit. I said credit can be something good or bad depending on how you look at it. Anytime you go above and beyond your means, you're going to find yourself in a predicament where you can't pay that back. And you end up acquiring interest. So I was explaining to him, which will hinder your flow. My point to people that be listening to me, I don't just do magic for you. I don't just do spell work for you. I look at your energy, what's going to actually cause you to flow, what's going to cause you to have the best impact in your endeavor, your undertaking. This is why I don't do certain type of work, because they create blockages. I had somebody asking me about, this is why I don't believe in controlling people. To control somebody, you're going to create blockages in yourself. There are certain energies, certain emotions you have to have, certain mindsets you have to be able to control somebody. Now you're going to become even more manipulative. You're going to become more aggressive. You're going to become more divisive. You're going to become more when you're trying to control somebody, that means you got to regulate them. There's certain people that tell y'all about spells and you can, and I'm not saying it can't be done. I want you to know what happens when you do that. That energy that you build up doing that. Because you're putting blockages in their life, but you also putting blockages in your life. When they say let it happen naturally or organically, that means it flows. There's no restriction. There's a desire. I want people in my life because they would desire to be there. I want people to support me because they desire. I want the flow. I want when we get on this social media platform by whatever, whether I do TikTok or whether I do any of my other social media platforms, there's always a constant flow. Because I'm not trying to put blockages. I'm not trying to restrict people's flow. I'm not trying to make a air sign act like a fire sign or earth sign act like a water sign. A lot of the control that you have to distort your reality in order to try to control somebody. A perception. When I do courtroom work, it creates a certain perception. And if you got a lot of clients that are guilty, you're always devising things to get around certain things, which means that you're going to become more divisive and you're never going to take accountability for yourself because your mindset is always trying to get somebody out of something that is guilty for something. Versus you got clientele that, for the most part, do what they're supposed to do. And so therefore, they're innocent in a lot of situations, and all you doing is clearing their name or clearing them of a charge or clearing them of a situation. Helping people, dealing with people with magic and prayers and spell work is really dependent on the individual that is being utilized, determined with what kind of worker I'm gonna be. I love to hear my success stories from my tribe, my congregation. Some of the things that people have a misnomer about me, they block themselves. And this is why I talk about perception. This is your crown. And how you view things, your mindset, how you project your mindset. And I talked about the children of Israel being faced with the giants in Canaan. And if you go through life seeing yourself as a grasshopper, I don't care if you gay, straight, bi, I don't care if you're educated, uneducated, I don't care if you're initiated, uninitiated. Those are just different faces or different categories. But your perception can be a blockage from you ever experiencing or obtaining certain things in life because of how you perceive yourself, how you allow other people to perceive yourself. These are all different types of blockages. It can happen in the crown, blockages in your pathway, racism, systematic racism, not having the proper tools can block your pathways, prohibit you from flowing as efficiently as you could, associating yourself with people that don't want to see you as capable of taking down the giants. A lot of times people, and this is what you got to understand about people, people can only give you advice based on their experience. If they have lived their life outside of victory, if they have lived their life outside of obtaining, and they always got, I'm going to use the example, Minister Mara, son of Ochosi. And he had been around me a minute, but I can't remember what phase. But when I met him, he had a Mazda, a white Mazda. And we were having a conversation. So he was like, and he had been listening to the messages and, you know, the teachings and all that. He said, and he told me, he said, I've never got what I wanted. He was a Capricorn. He said, a lot of times it was because they offered me a deal. And because the deal was good, I got something that I didn't really want, but it was a good deal. So I told him, because that didn't make no sense to me. If I'm going to have a car payment, if I'm going to live in a house, I'm going to live a life, I'm going to get what I want. I'm not going to not get a particular shirt or a particular pair of shoes because it's priced at one level, and if I wait, it's gonna wait for it to get marked down. I may never get my size. I want you to know that you create blockages, even how you think, how you address life, how you address situation. And I was telling him, I said, well, I don't strive to that. So he got ready to get another car. So we had built a better relationship by that time. And I told him, I said, well, what do you really want? He was like, oh, because we spotted this Jaguar. Because he started, Minister Mario, son of the chosen, he take forever to do something. So I was asking him what it is. So he started journaling. He started mapping out what he wanted. So he ended up looking at the Jaguar. and he had certain confirmations. What's up, my crab case in the house? She said, I'm looking good. That's my cancer. Always give me what I need. So he was saying to me, he was like, I'm on the Jaguar. So I kept telling him, I said, Mario, I've always got what I wanted. I have 3 kids. You don't have but 1 child. I don't see the reason why you. Thank you. She said, I love that. Um, I don't. I said I can't mentally, because in my mind, my grandmother had 9 kids, and she had what she had. So I ain't got but 3, and then look at him. He ain't got but 1. But it's really the mindset. So he went over there, and he actually he ended up getting the Jaguar sports car. And I was telling him, I said, if you're gonna go through something, I feel this. If you're gonna go through something, let it be for something you want. If you're gonna have the same stress that you would have if you had something you didn't want, you're gonna have a payment. Any side is still a payment. But if you're gonna go out there and work for something, at least let it be something you want. This is what I mean by not living beneath your benefit. Understanding what your system and what you have gone through has created blockages in your mind, blockages in your speech, blockages in your the way you feel in your heart, and what you have the capacity to believe. These blockages can be removed through Blockbuster. This is why, or triple threat. I want to do a mixture of Blockbuster and my triple threat. I went from using my healing incense, herbs, oils, to now I'm removing blockages. Because when you go through something and you create certain blockages that hinder your flow because of what you've been through. And you have to go back and clean that stuff out. You don't just get healed, but get that stuff cleaned out. Your mindset. There are certain things that came into my life because of uncertainty that produced fear. So I'm going through there and challenging those spaces in my mind, challenging those spaces in my heart that dealing with fear. What could happen? And I'm a person that I've been guilty of overthinking. And that ain't good. To think is good. To overthink is not good. And it hinders your circulation or hinders your flow. When it comes to love, prosperity, success, peace, happiness, those type of fruits, you want to remove blockages. Whether you create them, whether your circumstances create them, or other people try to create them in your life. You have to still remove those blockages because they hinder your circulation. Now, circulation a hindrance does not mean there's no flow. It means it's not flowing the way that it was structured to flow. So let's give an example. One of the things that I've been doing recently is removing the blockages. To remove a blockage, you got to understand what that blockage is made of. I'm going to say it again. Whether it's calcium buildup, whether it's cholesterol buildup, whether it's cortisol buildup, whether it's medication that's built up in your system. And just like it took time to get it in your system, it's going to take some time to get it out your system. If you're going to be in a relationship, if you're going to be encountering things, understand the difference between a roll opener and a Blockbuster. Roll opener creates opportunities. Blockbuster removes the blockages to the opportunities. Because you can have opportunity but have blockages. You can have a heart but blockages. You can have kidneys but blockages. You can have a liver but blockages. You can have veins and blood but blockages. This is why you get concerned about your circulation, your flow. The Bible said, from your belly shall flow the rivers of living water. Anything that is trying to hinder or detour that flow, you need to work diligently. Let me tell y'all something. You cannot get to the next level of your success without removing blockages. You can spend a lot of time. One of the things that really helped me is because I did not have poor circulation. Because I was always taking things like garlic. I take a lot of pumpkin seed oil, cayenne pepper. There are certain herbs, there are certain things that you utilize to break down the ingredients that create the blockages. Relationships that create blockages. Mindsets that create blockages. Emotional states that create blockages. The actions that create blockages. This is why we use the term don't burn down bridges. I was telling a young lady, I had two situations. I was telling a young lady, if you don't want to have certain emotional disappointments, stop. What's up, my Sage from Detroit? What's up, Stormy? If you want to have a flow in your life, you have to understand why certain advice is not good for you, and you have to understand why certain advice is good for you. A lot of my prosperity has to do with my freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of my feelings, freedom of my energy, my magic. I'm being a Sagittarius, me getting out, interacting with the world. All that stuff strengthens me. This is why you got to know who you are. Some people don't understand. You can't have a flow because if you're an air sign, communication is going to be essential. If you're a water sign, connection is going to be essential. And if you're an earth sign, then stability is going to be significant for you to have the level of trust that's necessary for you to move forward in life. There are certain things that you need in your system to keep your flow. There are certain things you need to apply to keep your flow. And monitor that. I was sitting there thinking, I have different clients with different situations. And one of the things that I try to do with people, I try to give them knowledge of what they're going through, insight, so that they can make a better decision. A lot of y'all, my kids were discussing that with me. There's so much benefit of watching these lives, because a lot of times you can't keep your mind at a certain level, and by listening to a certain type of teaching, it helps to fortify or strengthen you or give you the necessary courage to move forward. If your goal is to gain power without responsibility, without guardrails, without accountability, you're going to end up in a mess. One thing that I can really hone in on, because as a Sagittarian, I know the power of freedom. But freedom does not exclude you from accountability. Because to be free is to understand that other people are not responsible for you. Me being on time for my destiny, me being on time for what God has called me to do. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I got this going on, I got that going on. But a lot of my setup that I've been doing all these years was to get me in a position that I can do ministry or do spirituality full time and still have a structure to support myself. Freedom of speech, me being in an environment that people don't have a problem with me sharing the way that I speak my truth, speak the truth of my practice, or speak the truth of my reality, or speak the truth of what I don't want in my reality. And that comes across to people as harsh, as mean, maybe rude or inconsiderate. If you're going to say, I'm going to give you an example about flow. If you want your flow, when it comes down to you don't want to consider the opinions and perception of other people, but you really don't believe that, but you really care about what other people think, that's going to be a blockage. They'll be all right to me no matter what. That's right, Demetri. Think about this. If you want to flow in something, I don't care what it is, then you got to make sure that that's what you really believe in or you're endeavoring in. Because if not, those things will be a blockage. What's up, my baby Scorpio? Doubt is a blockage. Don't just say get rid of the doubt. Know what builds you up to doubt God or doubt spirit or doubt relationships. A lot of times we identifying an element and we're not identifying how did it build up in my life to actually be a blockage. Eating one piece of bacon is not gonna clog your arteries, but a continuation of eating fried bacon can create a certain imbalance in your body. A lot of time when we're doing magic in our energy and we're not purifying ourselves, we're not cleansing ourselves, and we don't realize over a period of time there's a buildup, there's a blockage, there's a situation that hindering our finances or hindering and we think it's somebody working on us. No, it's a buildup. Being able to read energy, being able to I'm gonna tell you, I was going through this health thing. I believe in breaking things down to the lowest common denominator. And what I mean by that logic is I make sure that it's not certain things. So when people are talking about attacking me, they had nothing to do with my health. Absolutely nothing to do with my health. Whether they took credit for it or not. But they didn't have anything to do with that. I knew that wasn't the issue. When you trying to build your flow, when you trying to remove blockages from your flow, me ignoring my hydration, me ignoring my anemia, I was aware of it, but I had never addressed it. I didn't see how it could be significant. I just, okay, I'm anemic. My mama need me, my daddy need me, and people in my family need me. Okay? I never had any issues. But over time, that's what some of you, and I tell my young people, it's a lot of times, a lot of things that come up in your life was built up over time through neglect. Maybe you are aware of certain things, but you are not addressing them. It's still neglectful. And eventually it builds up to it causes a blockage or a problem with your flow. Whether that's in your finances, whether that is in your relationships, having certain mindsets. Let me tell y'all something. From a person that believes in freedom, everybody don't believe in freedom. Some people believe in control. Depending on what you believe in can create blockages. If you feel like you have to control your man or control your woman, you're creating a blockage. Not only in them, but in yourself. This is why certain things I'm not very heavy-handed in. And there are other things that I am in control. I have to be in control in order for certain things to come out a certain type of way. Let me tell y'all something. The hardest person to help is somebody that doesn't understand the help that they need. They think their situation is why they need help. Your situation, your circumstance is not the reason why you need help. What led you into that situation or that circumstance is why you need help. I'm going to say that again. What you're in right now, the circumstance, the situation, is not why you need help. What keeps leading you into them same circumstances, them same set of situations, is why you need help. Why you allow those things to barricade you into those scenarios. I'm a type of person, if I need to make an adjustment, I make that adjustment. If I need to do spell work, because everything ain't about a spell, everything ain't about a ritual. I knew if I wanted to build my strength level, I had to exercise. And I knew that walking is good, but that wasn't going to get it. I've been stepping my game up in that department to keep my flow. To keep me in a situation where I can make better decisions because I can physically be there to actually get it done. Blockbuster keeps the flow. Your circulation. You being able to get to the places that you need to be in your life. You being around certain people that their mindset, and once you do go start learning, you'll understand why certain mindsets, certain people ain't good for you. Somebody as optimistic as I am ain't good for certain people. There are people that feel more secure close to the ground. Everybody ain't your tribe. Everybody ain't your inner circle, and that's okay. Don't hinder somebody else's flow because of what you trying to do. You trying to be. You trying to master. I realized when I started going into this direction that I'm going to lose some people. I wasn't going to let them hinder my flow, and I wasn't going to hinder their flow. Sometimes things are too much for certain people's system. Too much knowledge, too much wisdom, too much understanding. What people don't understand about whether the knowledge is spiritual or what. This is the thing. Much knowledge brings grief. Much wisdom brings sorrow. This is why Christ and Yahshua was feeling a certain type of way, because every time he looked up, it was never his people that had all this great faith, had all this dedication. Just because people in the spiritual community don't mean they have all that great faith. They may have an understanding of the system, but implementing, benefiting from it, they don't do that. That's why I tell many of you all, I'm about magic. I'm about conjure. I'm about mysticism, energy, frequency, and vibration. All that formality and stuff, I don't kick it, but that ain't me. That's why they say ignorant is bliss. Exactly, Demetri. My thing is, if you're gonna flow with somebody, if you're gonna flow with a tribe, if you're gonna flow with a coven, you're gonna flow with a system of people, a group, a congregate with people. You have to understand where you fit in and where the blockages are. One of the things that me being with Padrino Michael, the reason why a lot of the people that in the Elay could not hinder my flow, because I wasn't expecting or desiring certain flows, extraterrestrial awareness. All right, Ryan. And when people think they know what you after, they'll try to put up blockages. I'm going to say that again. When people think they know what you desire or where you trying to go, and they start putting up blockages, and they wonder why, okay, why are you still flowing? Because, and just like I told people, when I got into this, I said, I'm not here to do what y'all do. I'm here to do what I do. And that's conjure. I don't care if it's Orisha, it's going to be conjure. I don't care if it's voodoo, it's going to be conjure. I don't care if it's hoodoo, it's going to be conjure. I don't care if it's Palo, it's going to be conjure. I'm here for the energy, frequency, and vibration, the magic. And I channel it through me being a Sagittarius, my moon being Aries, and my rising sign being Pisces. And I benefit from the experience or the reference material that I have. Energetically, whoever is stronger controls the flow. When you break away from a strong circulation of energy, things are, and why people think that people like me are doing stuff to them. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna explain this. When Darren blocked his way with Samantha, that wasn't his magic. That was her magic. Don't ever be foolish enough to cut your flow. Whatever energy that is pouring into your life because of what you're doing, don't stop doing that. Build upon that, but don't stop. Because if you disconnect that flow, then you're not going to have the support of that energy field. That's wisdom. This is why I teach you guys about ancestors. That is your primary flow. Your primary. If you cut your ancestors off through blockages, ignorance, lack of information, Poor associations. Being around people that don't think much of your ancestors and your people. Black people. Because you trying to be adjacent to white people. Let me say this. I heard I was listening to TikTok video. I'm gonna say this. Our greatness was not hindered just because of white people. I'm gonna say this again. Magically, energetically, societal, economics. Though white people were not the only blockages. And I don't care how many African people plead the cause and why certain tribes or certain tribes of people were sold into slavery. It don't matter. You still was a part of the blockage. And when there were revolts in the tribal community, you helped the colonizers put the fire out. Let me explain something to y'all. Somebody ain't got to put their hands in the pot to be a part of the conspiracy. The advice that you were giving, the insight that you were giving were creating the blockages. They were never smart enough to hold us in slavery for 400 years plus. They were never smart. Our people, and always remember, you got to know where the blockages come from. In order to remove them, to get rid of them, you have to understand how you develop blockages in order to get your flow back or to keep your flow. You got to know the hands that were operating, the mouths that were speaking. Let me tell you something. When Jamaican, Ghanaian, Nigerian, our black brothers, sisters, and cousins, and all them people, when they can tell you they were taught by a Latino, they were taught by their parents and their grandparents, don't mess with Americans, that creates blockages. You might not like how it turned out. You don't like the fact that you've been being held accountable for your participation in the continual suppression of a sect of people. My son said this to me one time, and I'm gonna share this because this is son energy. This is about removing blockages. He said, Dad, he said, I explained it to you like this. He said, because me and my brother look at you like Superman. He said, just because the bullets bounce off of Superman does not mean the threat wasn't what it was. And it doesn't mean they weren't trying to kill Superman. They couldn't. Just because the weapon was not able to prosper does not mean that weapon wasn't formed. I'm going to say this again. Just because the weapon did not come to pass doesn't mean the intention wasn't there. Doesn't mean the execution wasn't there. It wasn't able to accomplish what it was set out to do. You might end up with a cold, but they were trying to take your health. You might have ended up in a financial rut, but they were trying to bring you to financial calamity. When you start removing them blockages and you start seeing how things supposed to be in your life versus how you have adjusted to the type of flow you had. But when you start removing those blockages and the organs start getting the actual flow that was actually designed for you to have, that's when you're gonna know the difference. Sometimes you don't realize you're under pressure. Sometimes you don't know that you're under stress. Sometimes you don't know that you're fighting way harder than you should have to fight for certain things. But when you come to the knowledge and you get that certain level of freedom and them blockages are removed, this is why I believe in doing blockbuster work. But I got to be ready for the flow. A lot of y'all do blockbuster work and then you're not ready for the change. Because once the pathway is clear, what was hindering, what was restricting the flow is no longer there. And you got to be ready for that rush until it balances out over time. A blockage removal working will remove anything that is hindering the flow. And then you have to be responsible for the actual flow that is coming through now. If you use the chemicals and bits and you get an overflow, it's going to overwhelm you. So have some wisdom. When you practicing magic, understanding what blockages are, whether you're utilizing hoodoo, voodoo, the Bible, or Kamdemle, or any magical ATRs. Removing blockages keeps your flow, whatever that flow is, that keeps you being able to regulate your system, your microcosm that allows you to manifest or receive manifestation. Because I'm do a teaching on that, because a lot of people don't know how to receive. They don't know how to have receptors, and that hinders you from benefiting also from your manifestation, being able to receive your healing, be able to receive your prosperity, receive your health. You give, you got to know how to receive. It's duality. All right? God bless you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your love and your support. That's the truth. Once removed is very important. Think about this on your day-to-day. If you're doing blockbuster work or you need it done, understand the significance of it, and then also be prepared when that change comes. When those blockages are removed, those yokes are destroyed, the burden removed. I'm gonna close on this. They have a belt that you put on. Most people that do any type of lifting and working at warehouses, they give them those back supports. The danger in the back support is that your muscles no longer prepare or brace themselves for your emotions, your emotion left or right, because you have a back harness on. Too much support can weaken your body. You don't want to be weakening your body. You want to strengthen your body. You want to strengthen your mind. You want to strengthen your emotion. You want to strengthen your wherewithal. And that takes time. All right? Y'all have a good one.